Well, the issue of dual citizenship is threatening the job of yet another senior politician, this time the Deputy Prime Minister. Barnaby Joyce says he's asked the High Court to rule on whether he was validly elected because he may be a citizen of New Zealand. Political reporter Ashlyn McGee joins us now from Canberra. And Ashlyn, how's this all come about?
Look, it all comes down to Section 44 of the Constitution, which we've become very familiar with over the last couple of weeks, and that's all about what or who is qualified to stand in the Australian Parliament. Now, it says that disqualification is anyone who is a subject or a citizen or entitled to the rights or privileges of a subject or a citizen of a foreign power. Now, Barnaby Joyce, the Deputy Prime Minister, stood up in the House of Representatives first thing this morning and said that he's received advice from New Zealand that he may be a citizen by descent, and that is because his father was born in New Zealand. He said that he's asked the High Court to make a decision on his eligibility to stand in the Parliament, but that in the meantime, until that decision is made, he'll continue to stand as the Deputy Prime Minister because of the strength of the legal argument in his favour. Now, that essentially comes down to whether his father was a citizen. Even though he was born there, Barnaby Joyce says his father was a British subject. Let's have a listen to Barnaby Joyce in the House this morning.
Needless to say, I was shocked to receive this information. I've always been an Australian citizen, born in Tamworth, just as my mother and my great-grandmother was born there 100 years earlier. Neither I nor my parents have ever had any reason to believe that I may be a citizen of any other country. Given the strength of the legal advice the government has received, the Prime Minister has asked that I remain Deputy Prime Minister and continue my ministerial duties.
Now, Ashlyn, it seems that every week there's another MP caught up in this citizenship furor. Is there any end in sight to the questions over parliamentarian citizenship?
Look, that's exactly right. It's 5 and counting at this point, and there are questions over many others being raised with journalists around the press gallery and in the building more generally. Look, the government will be hoping that this is the end of it because it only holds a one-seat majority in the lower house. So, for example, if Barnaby Joyce were found to be ineligible to stand, the government could be in big trouble. So they'll be hoping this is the end of it. The Prime Minister has actually written to the opposition leader, Bill Shorten, I should say, and said it is manifestly in the national interest that the High Court have the opportunity to clarify the limits on the operation of Section 44. And in that letter, he invites Bill Shorten to nominate any Labor members or senators that they have questions about as well. Now, that's prompted a bit of a sharp response from Labor frontbencher, Anthony Albanese.
The PM should worry about getting his own house in order. Labor has had our house in order, and I think that the referrals that have been made are appropriate.
Now, as I said at the start, this all comes down to that section of the Constitution, which is essentially the rule book governing Australia, and that is exceptionally hard to change. So for the moment, Section 44 remains. The High Court looks likely to rule on how narrow that needs to be defined or needs to be applied, and from there we may have some clarity about who can sit in the Australian Parliament.
Much more to come on this. Ashlyn McGee, many thanks.